So we're finally in 2026. And this is a time of the year where people start pulling out their pens and papers and start drafting New Year goals, New Year resolutions, vision boards, and whatever else you want to call them. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of those things because I think those things are just one of those things where people get involved in just because they want to participate or want to be part of some quote unquote tradition where because something I mean, most people do every year. And I'm not a fan of it because mostly 30 days into the new year, sometimes 45 days into the new year, you abandon that. Now, select few people actually follow through with it. And so for me, this year, I want to do something different. I'm not going for New Year goals, New Year resolutions. Hey, like I said, I've never been a fan of it, but this year I just want to try something different. I'm actually going more for predictions. My predictions for what I think 2026 will bring in terms of just, the market, the economy, just life overall. So let me get to a couple of things that I got jotted down here that I think will be like, these are just my predictions for 2026, and I really stand behind them. So the first one, I'm going to start at the corporate level. And this is where I think, AI is going to be more of a macro engine when it comes to productivity and just corporate expenditure. Now, we know that in 2025 and 2024 to some extent, a lot of companies have been moving towards basically automating their whole process, Gen AI, implementing Gen AI into their processes and workflows. But I think 2026 will have a very unique switch. The I think companies did my what I'm looking at things, right. I see that companies were actually, especially in 2025, they're just trying to figure out how AI fits. Now it's easy to say, well, a lot of companies bought into Gen AI, having Chat GPT, Claude, or Gemini, Copilot, whatever it is. And I do understand that because as someone who works with a lot of corporations, especially helping them out with their AI transformation, the one thing that I've noticed is a lot of these companies just buy Gen AI, tools. Like I remember talking to a company that they bought, they basically licensed Claude and uh, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, all of that together, but yet they don't even know how to use them, what to do with it. They haven't even identified how they want to use it. So I think I think we're going to see a lot of this now in 2026. Companies are going to try to figure out or really see how they can maybe bring in consultants or even hire full-time people to figure out how they'll definitely put or utilize those Gen AI tools to their advantage. So from a corporate side, I think Gen AI, will become a very, 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 very large part of company expenditures in 2026. Now, the next prediction that I have is I think we are going to, because the way the market is structured right now, or the way it is right now, it looks like we're due for a recession, a really hard recession. But I don't think we're going to get there because I think the market is going to eventually balance itself out and we are going to avoid a major recession because 2026 looks like it's poised for a recession, but I doubt that will be the case. I think we're going to have a pretty good soft landing. We're going to have a pretty good situation where the recession that we're due for is not going to happen. And the market is going to eventually rebound because right now it's sitting kind of on the red right now. But I think we're going to have a pretty good bounce back. It's not going to go crazy. It's not going to go extremely high. I think it's still going to it's going to level up in a sense. So I see that really happening in 2026. So instead of us having a recession, we might have more of a soft landing where it's still going to be hard on some people, but it's not going to be completely a full blown recession. But it's still going to be some hard times that are happening to people. Then the next prediction that I have is basically tied to the previous one, and this has to do with inflation. Now, and I know there's been conversations about inflation in the prior administration versus this administration, but I think we're still going to see inflation. Inflation is still going to exist. It's not going to go anywhere. I think we're going to see maybe an uptick, right? It's not going to be too crazy, but it's going to be some kind of uptick, or at the very least, it's still going to be at the level that we are today now, except we have some kind of rate cut from the Feds, and especially a massive rate cut. But I think even with the rate cut, we're still going to have some sort of inflation. So people need to get ready for that. People need to strap up for that, because we're still going to have hard times. We're still going to have some inflation lingering around where it's still going to affect people's pockets and people's bottom line. Now, moving on to the next thing, it has to do with the housing market. Now, I'm one of those people that for the last few months, I've been touting that the housing market in the US is due for a crash, but so far it has not happened. But I think the market in 2026 is going to really slow down. It's not going to be, remember that burst that happened? I think it was like 2021 or something. We're not going to get that. We're not even going to get 40% of that. I think the market at the very best is going to stay like where it is, like stay stable. But you're not going to see, the market is not going to rise. You're not going to have those explosive growth in the market. If anything, I think we might even see a dip in the housing market. So I don't think the housing market will be pretty in 2026. Maybe on the like the tail end of 2026. But as far as the first 3 quarters of 2026, I don't see that happening. So I think the housing market, the rates might still be favorable for people who want to buy. I don't know if the Feds can come in and cut the rates, and you get the rates go from 6% to somewhere around 3 or 4%, but that still is not going to affect the price of the market. I think the market is still going to struggle. And for people who already own, yeah, you can buy. You can hold on to what you got, but the market is not going to see huge gains. So if someone who's looking to sell one of your properties or sell your house in 2026, hoping that the market is going to go up, I don't think that's the case. Again, this is just my predictions. I don't work for the Feds. I'm not speaking from a factual point of view. This is my prediction. So I think the market is going to probably get a little dip, maybe not crash like I've always predicted, but I think it's just going to have some kind of a dip, and at the very least, it's going to stay flat. Now, moving on to the next thing, and I think this is a big one. This is a one that I'm really interested in seeing how it's going to play out, because I think I predict that in 2026, we're going to see an emergence or resurgence, if you will, of like emerging markets, right? And what do I mean by emerging markets? Economies that were never on the map, were not even on the radar, and they're really going to blow up. Because I think with AI is going to really democratize, people starting businesses or whatever else people are going to get involved in. Now, you're going to see companies are going to come out from everywhere. And I think we're going to see countries. Now, I want to put China on that list, but China is already China, right? But I think we're going to see different countries that we never thought of are going to come up with some really interesting companies or innovations that are really going to put themselves on the world stage. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to see countries that will compete with the U.S., but they are going to really come up on the map. And my eyes are really locked in Africa. Like a few countries in Africa, I'm sure they will really rise to the occasion. But I think we're going to see a resurgence or some kind of an introduction to the world stage of some economies or some countries that are really going to come in with the help of AI, because AI is really going to help these countries and the people in this country, entrepreneurs and innovators in these countries, to really do something really remarkable that will really put them on the map. So moving on to the next thing, I think it has to do with crypto. I think crypto now, the days of crypto having 20,000% gain in 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it is, I think those days are over. Now, I'm not going to fight the, meme coins. Sometimes you have a meme coin will drop and, you go up 10,000%, whatever the case might be. Yeah, those are probably still going to exist, but those are meme coins. Somebody's going to pump it up and then, pull the rug under everybody, and people are going to lose their money. But I think the days of having crypto just blow up like the Bitcoins or Ethereums or Solanas or whatever the case might be, I think that's over. I'm not saying crypto is over. I'm just saying because now you have the big dogs coming around now. You have the Black Rocks who have the ETFs now around cryptocurrency and everything. That come with regulation, because all these big asset management companies and PE firms and banks, once they get involved, super involved with the crypto ETFs or Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, regulation follows. And once regulation gets involved, you know how things go, then things start slowing down. That quick wealth accumulation when it comes to crypto is not going to be there anymore, but it's still going to be a pretty good investment. But I think there will be some major change around that. I think more regulation will come in this crypto space. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. Now, we're going back to the corporate world. I think in 2026, we're going to see the continuation of massive layoffs in corporate America. Now, remember earlier I talked about how companies are still trying to figure out how to implement AI into their workflows, especially non-tech companies, because the tech guys like the Facebooks and Amazons and Google and other small tech startups, that's the core of their business. Then you have other niches or other industries like insurance and banking and real estate that AI or technology is not the core of their business. Or once they figure that out, so we're going to see an uptick of layoffs. I think there's going to be more layoffs coming. And the difference this time around, I think, because right now when companies are laying off, they're just talking about, oh, we're trying to restructure or, it's a budget issue or whatever the case might be. But I think it's going to be very transparent. Well, maybe not extremely transparent, but it's going to be more evident. They're actually going to mention why they're laying off. I think it will be obvious. They'll actually probably mention it that, okay, AI is really taking over. Because right now you hear like when Facebook does a layoff, they say, oh, because we have AI doing the work for the engineers now. But these other companies are probably they're going to openly say it. They're actually going to say that openly and say, hey, we're laying off because we got Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT to do the work for us now. So we're laying off because of that purpose or because of that reason. So I see a lot of layoff coming in 2026. It's still going to come in. So I think people should ready for that. People should really get ready and find a way to find something else or maybe, rethink how to, especially now that we're talking about vision boards and goals and whatnot. I think one of the goals that people need to focus on is really try to plan around the layoffs that are coming, especially the 9-to-5ers. Plan around the layoffs that are coming because they're going to still happen. If you still have a job, I'm not saying you're going to lose it, but there's a chance you're going to. So start thinking, okay, if I'm not needed where I am, or if the value that I'm bringing in is not sufficient, or I'm just a surplus to requirement, what do I do? What do I get involved in to make myself more marketable? Or do I need to pivot to something else? So that's something people need to really look into because those layoffs are going to keep coming, especially heading into like somewhere in the middle of the first quarter of 2026, leading into the second quarter as well. You're going to hear a lot of, layoffs coming down. So I'm not trying to scare anyone, but it's just what it is because companies are going to really keep figuring out how AI will come in because I speak to a lot of companies that are looking for consultants and full-time employees to, help with their AI transformation. And the one common thing that I see is they are a lot of them don't even understand what they need to do. They just know what problem needs to be solved, but they don't know how to go about it to solve that problem. So I think once they figure that out, they're going to start taking people out. And as a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, actually, I spoke to a CEO of a company that I'm not going to name. It's not a major company. It's actually, you can say a startup, right? They've been in business for a few years, but you can say a startup, I guess. And it was a transformation role, AI transformation. They had a problem that they wanted to solve. They actually licensed out all the Gen AI tools that you can find, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all those guys, right? And when I asked them what was the success criteria for a job for that particular role, because it was a new role, he didn't know what he was hiring for. He didn't have a template or he didn't have an understanding of the role itself because it was just a brand new role. So he didn't know what to expect. He didn't know what a successful candidate would look like. And when I asked him what the success criteria was, I remember this vividly when he said, reduce our workforce by 40%. We want to really take a lot of the things that we have in our current workflow automated through one of the AI tools, possibly all of them, so that way we can reduce the number of people that we have on our staff. That is something that is coming. And that's just one person that I spoke to. I'm sure a lot more are thinking in that direction. So people need to strap up and get ready for that because it's coming. Okay, the next prediction that I really have, and this one is a scary one because I truly think, I think we're seeing that already. We saw some of it in 2025. I think we are going to see more elderly people return to work. So I think we're going to see a lot of people above age 60 or preferably around above age 65 return to work because the landscape is changing now. You know, there's not a lot of money in Social Security or retirement benefits for people who are retired to get from. And the ones that are still working because they're still trying to make ends meet, AI is basically going to automate their job, especially for baby boomers, right? So AI is going to automate their job. So a lot of them are going to be forced to come back to work. And we're going to see a lot of those. We're going to see a lot of older folks really coming back and trying to get back in the job market because they need to make ends meet. So this is a scary one for me because currently the younger people are already losing the jobs that they have because a lot of their work has been automated. And now, instead of you competing with people in your generation or age group, now you're going to have the older folks coming back in. And it's going to be harder for them because whether we like it or not, ageism is still a thing, right? Employers still discriminate when it comes to age. And these older folks, a lot of them are not up to speed when it comes to technology. And they're tired. They can't learn faster than the younger folks, especially if the younger folks decide to pick up AI skills here and there. Those older folks will not be able to keep up. And they don't have the energy to go do like work that requires manual labor or some kind of a physical, maybe lifting or, always, squatting down and picking up stuff. So it's going to be really hard. And I think if nothing gets done from a benefit standpoint in terms of like maybe having more money in the Social Security, which I don't think is going to happen, that is going to be a big problem because we're going to see a lot of those coming through. I think that will be very evident and it's going to be a wave of it. I think we should look out for that. I really predict that is going to happen. Okay, so the next prediction that I think is going to occur, or we're going to see some of it, or at least a lot of it in 2026, is financial education is going to be more like a mandatory thing now. Remember when just a couple of years ago, especially during COVID, in the height of COVID, when everybody was doing self-help, everybody was doing some kind of, I don't know, therapy, you want to call it, or, self-education, whatever you want, professional development, personal development, all that. I think financial education is going to be the next thing. And that will be prompted, or that will be exacerbated basically, well, by layoffs, because a lot of people are going to be laid off, and yes, they're not going to be a lot of money, and people are going to start looking for other ways to make ends meet. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to make a lot of money overnight, but people are going to start really learning and understanding how to participate in the money game, because the money game, people who are in this game play a whole different game. I don't want to see you and say the wealthy play a different game, because the game is available for everybody to play. It's just that some people just play better than us, but it's available for people to play at all levels. And I think a lot of people are going to get financially educated so they can start playing game at their own level. So I see that becoming more of basically a prerequisite of life, where every adult, I'm already talking to I see a lot of like teenagers asking me questions about, hey, how do I learn the stock market? And how about that do I learn this when it comes to money? Which is kind of strange because just a couple of years ago, I was not getting that. But now they're interested at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's a good thing, right? So that means once they get fully engulfed into that, that's really good. And I think some of their parents will actually pick up from that. And some would it'll become a thing where self-help is going to go out the door. Professional and personal development is going to get out the door, because at some point, I think we've all realized a lot of it became more of a scam, right? Or kind of a hustle than basically helping people. But a financial education is something that a lot of people lack. And I think it's going to become a very, 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 very important, tool to have in your toolbox, because without that, things are not going to look pretty, considering considering how things are going right now. So I think that would be a big thing. And the last thing that I'm going to touch on, I think in 2026, we might see the first trillionaire ever in the world, right? I think we might see it. Now, we have a few, candidates for that. Of course, Elon Musk is sitting at the top of the list. You have other billionaires like Larry Ellison, or Mark Zuckerberg, right? There's a bunch of them. But if I were to guess, it looks like Elon is going to be the first to hit that $1 trillion level. However, I would not be surprised. Somebody might come out of nowhere. Remember, just 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, Larry Ellison was not on the list of like the top 3 wealthy people. He was not really there. And he just leapfrogged a bunch of people. At one point, he was like the richest for like, I don't know, a few days or something, maybe a couple of weeks, I can't remember. So I think we're going to probably see that. Again, Elon Musk is looking more likely, maybe Mark Zuckerberg. But if I were to guess, I don't think either of them is going to be that person. There's somebody somewhere that we're just not looking at. Maybe Larry Ellison, because especially there's some moves that are happening right now. And especially with the whole purchase of, Warner Brothers and all that stuff. But again, I don't know, right? This is just me guessing. To me, Elon Musk is the leading candidate for that, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else just leapfrogs or comes out of nowhere. But in 2026, it's looking more likely than ever. So we'll see. Maybe the fourth quarter of 2026, or maybe sometime maybe even the third quarter, but we'll see. This more likely, considering how things are going, especially if the stock market does not really take a big dip. If the stock market really rises the way it's supposed to go based on how people are anticipating, if we don't hit any kind of recession or anything, there's a high chance that's going to happen. So those are my predictions for 2026. And again, these are all predictions. This is not expert advice. This is just what I think or what I see that I think is going to happen. So, but we'll see. I'll keep an eye on it and see which ones I got wrong and which ones I got right. But those are what it is. And in the meantime, thanks for watching and Happy New Year to you. Happy 2026. And I hope whatever you set for yourself, whatever goals, vision, resolutions, whatever you want to label it, I hope it comes through for you. And we'll revisit this topic again sometime in December of 2026. Thanks for watching. Take care.